Why is it important to develop your palate?
Especially in the cafe, you're in the extraction business, taking flavors from one thing and imparting it into another. The best metric for success is how it tastes.
The sooner you can get to that point of knowing that you're serving a great product to a guest, the better.
Hello and welcome to the Coffee Sometimes podcast. In this episode, Ross, Riley, and I dive into our coffee review segment and taste coffee roasted all the way in Idaho from Sprout Coffee Roasters. Then we jump into chapter 19 of Unreasonable Hospitality, all about scaling your culture, which was super helpful for us. And then we offer some tips on palate development for anyone out there looking to up their game when it comes to tasting coffee. But before we jump in, I wanted to highlight our Valor coffee cart. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but if you've ever been in a place and you've thought to yourself, I wish there was mobile coffee cart energy right now. That's where we come in. You give us a call, one call, that's all. We'll be there. The Valor coffee cart is great for events, gatherings, weddings, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, corporate events, you name it. We're there. Backyard barbecues, a little BBQ. Come on, sounds like a good time. But yeah, we love to take that thing around, put our culture on wheels, and just give you guys a party. If you like the way that sounds and you want to get in touch with us, you can go to our website, valor.coffee/ catering. And we got more information there. Next steps, you name it. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. We hope you enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. I'm done.
All right, coffee time.
And we are blooming officially. I feel like when I first started making coffee at home, the bloom was like the coolest part, you know?
It's kind of like the break when you're cupping.
Yeah, it is kind of like that.
My people really love that stuff.
Yeah. Excuse me while I do 30 times 16 for the millionth time.
Oh, dude, if you were using the fellow Tally Pro Studio, you would just have the ratio right there.
It's still 480, in case anybody was wondering.
Okay.
Like, since the last time I did it. So.
Yeah, people are going to listen to these back to back and be like, man, Ross is such an idiot.
I know. Hey. I don't think so. I don't think they'll do that, but.
Because, like, I just listened to a podcast, and he just did it on that podcast, and now, like, an hour later, I'm listening to another one. How did you already forget?
It's a different day, okay? It's a different day.
Except for when we both film these.
Do you guys think that we turned on the mic back there this time?
It's recording.
Dude, I know we did. Facts.
With
Sorry
an
about
SD
that
card?
last week. There's an SD card this week. We're ready to go.
Grinder.
What coffee are we brewing today? We need that packaging.
That's an excellent question. Bag me, Ethan.
Do the part where we throw it. Yeah.
This is a copy that someone sent us. Sprout Coffee Company, Sprout Coffee Roasters, Sprout Coffee.
Coffee roasters.
I'm not too sure, just to be perfectly candid. And it is a Peru.
Boom.
Do you know how would you say that?
I don't know how I would say that.
Hey.
I don't know. I feel wrong.
Okay.
Mispronouncing.
I'm gonna say Huabal Comunidad.
Okay. I think you're probably in the neighborhood.
How do H's sound in Spanish again? I'm being serious because I really don't know.
I think they don't sound.
Oh, Huabal?
I think so.
All right, great. Here's the packaging.
Thank you so much, Sprout.
Yes, Sprout. Thank you for fueling our morning.
Because I haven't had my coffee.
I am excited to taste this. What were the kind of the surface level looks of things? A little dark, right?
Yeah, did you get a look at those beans, Ethan?
Beans. I didn't think they actually looked that dark, but the line's a little low. But the smell says otherwise.
It smells dark.
It smells dark.
They look a touch dark. I mean, definitely no oil, nothing of those sorts. I would agree that it does smell a touch dark. Can you smell it?
Yeah. Agreed. Ethan said they're from Idaho. Yeah.
Ethan?
Coeur d'Alene.
Okay.
I don't know how they say it, how the locals say it, but it's a very French town name.
How do you think that happened in Idaho?
Beats me, man.
Dude, people from all over were founding stuff all over America, you know? They're like, this is going to be called Coeur d'Alene.
Absolutely.
You're like, all right.
Well,
them's the rules.
Ethan, how's the espresso going back there? Are you pulling some good shots?
Dude, well, I'm trying to do this espresso justice because of its different style.
How so?
I was doing a bigger shot, and I feel like it wasn't tasting awesome. It wasn't stretching well, so I'm doing something a little tighter in homage to its darker profile.
Okay, so what ratio are we working with?
I'm doing like a 19. Funny enough, it's actually not that small of a shot. I'm doing like a 19 to 38, like just a more traditional 1 to 2.
1 to 2.
Small for an EK, though.
Small for an EK, for sure.
For those of you who don't know, the EK43 tends to enjoy being pulled a little longer and a little bit shorter time.
That's right.
I wanted it to be a little faster because the darker the coffee, typically the more soluble it is, so the easier it's dissolved into a liquid. So I got my shot time down from like 28 to 23. So that's what's heading your way in a second. Hold on, I gotta make cappuccino.
You want to talk about this packaging?
Let's talk about it.
So we've got another week of a, bought in bulk brandless bag. Mm-hmm. This time we went for the craft look instead of last week was white. And then a label, looks like a sturdy label. As far as the content of it, we've got the name of the company, the origin, 3 tasting notes. The processing is washed. It's got 1,900 meters above sea level, and the varietal. I mean, minimal. But as far as content on the bag, I think it, similarly to last week, we like brand bios, don't we?
That's true.
Where is Sprout from? Mm-hmm. How can we connect with it? Mm-hmm. Especially if Sprout, you're planning to have a national reach, which I would think you would want that, then it's people want to know where this place is. Sprout, and I didn't know.
Or a website or something of the sort.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's not, I understand it might not be too common for your coffee to get in the hands of someone who just has no clue, but
it will.
But it will, fortunately, and full transparency, we kind of had a hard time finding this coffee. We had to search like the exact name of the coffee to find it. Whereas if there was a website, we could have just gone straight to the website.
Yep.
Or obviously we had messaged on Instagram, but we didn't go back to find the message.
Is content out of 10?
Content's out of 5.
Out of 5?
Yeah, content and crunch are out of 5. We'll wait to grade until Ethan gets over here, and we'll do lightning round grading. But moving on to aesthetic, I'm just going to be really real and say that this reminds me exactly of Sprouts grocery store.
Yep.
I don't know if those are nationwide.
I was gonna say, do they have Sprouts in Idaho?
Yeah.
Ethan, great pour.
Oh my goodness, Ethan.
Guys, hey.
Hey.
Why don't you grab another photo with
I'll
your
have to do that.
apple?
All right. Apple.
There it is.
Apple engaged.
But yeah, it does remind me of Sprouts, the grocery store, especially because it's the same shade of green and a similar font.
True. Could be a total coincidence.
Could be.
But it is there.
Though similar, I like the homey, earth tony touch. It's a style choice for sure. I think a lot of brands are going really light and bright, as we do a lot of time. But I like this homage to the craft coffee bag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we have the UX. I mean, it's a coffee bag. How was the rip?
Oh man, awesome!
Should we have like the own rate? Wow. Should we have a rating for the rip?
That's more of like an honorable mention, maybe.
The rip factor?
No, it was easy. We never talk about this. I don't know if we talk about this on the program that much, but it's a 12-ounce bag, and we do 10-ounce bags. Do we like that? Do we like different sizes? Do we like 8 ounces? A pounder? Is it all preference?
Man, I think that there's just so many pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
I almost feel like you can't go wrong. No. I mean, excuse me.
It's a touchy subject.
It's really
okay.
tough for me. It does depend on your demographic. I do think, like if you're in the middle of nowhere and you're just selling coffee at your local farmers market to a more rural crowd, and you're having like super minimal packaging with, you don't even say ounces, you say like 200 grams.
Whoa.
I think you could be kicking yourself a little bit there. But I think 12 ounce is a good standard. Just like if you're going to choose one, choose 12.
Yeah.
Whenever you start to get into more expensive coffees, just the per unit price, the bag, like the whole bag of coffee is just going to end up being over $20 every time. So that's part of the reason we chose 10 ounces is just because we want to bring in nice coffees, and it's an easier pill to swallow if you're buying something cheaper.
Yeah. Hey, let's dig into these drinks, guys.
Sorry about that, guys. Sorry for the wobbly cameras, viewers.
We're gonna
getting things.
We're gonna hear about that one in the comments.
Yeah, they're going to tear us to shreds.
Getting things dialed in over here. I'm so excited for this coffee.
I thought so. I want to get your thoughts on the cappuccinos. I think it might shine amidst our other options. I feel like a darker coffee and milk is always like a fun treat if it's extracted pretty well and steamed well. But I gotta try this.
I think you did a great job dialing this in.
Yeah, you
Ethan.
did. Well, I'm glad that all of our training of you finally paid off.
Dude.
Like we've been working for years.
Cappuccino's nice.
Cappuccino's good.
Cappuccino's nice. Espresso, I don't know. Let me taste it again.
It's all nostalgia right now.
Where are you?
I'm in LJ.
I was thinking LJ.
Whoa.
I'm in LJ at whatever cafe that is
The LJ
called.
Coffee House.
Is it called the LJ Coffee House?
know it.
They've got a linea.
Little mountain town for all you
Dancing
out there.
Goat.
Dancing Goat.
Did you guys hear that Dancing Goat and another company are not Dancing Goat? Batdorf and another company are merging?
Do you know the other company?
I don't remember the name. I'm sorry.
Maybe we'll get back to you guys after the break about that for breaking news.
Yeah, you're about
Dude,
you're
coffee news.
coffee news.
In coffee news, Travis Kelce hyperextended his knee.
And
It's just news we care about.
maybe he's at home hurt drinking a cup of coffee.
So, yeah, let's send him
It's
coffee.
possible he's drinking coffee, so it's coffee news.
No, he's drinking that energy drink. That he
Accelerator?
sponsors, yeah. Okay, how's the pour over tasting?
Hot.
For me, it's the least enjoyable of the options.
So, yeah. Yeah, the espresso is pretty solid.
I think that I could have brewed this pour over at a 1-to-15 ratio, similarly to what you've been saying about espresso, instead of a 1-to-16.
Yeah, like you don't want to stretch it.
Don't want to stretch it. Just let it be a unidimensional, strong cup of coffee.
Bold coffee.
Yep.
Okay.
But I mean, this cappuccino is incredible.
Yeah, you're making a good dent in it so far.
I might
So,
just keep drinking it.
Hey, man, no.
And another reminder to our listeners out there, if you own a coffee company or you work at a coffee company or you just have a favorite roaster in town that you want to represent, send it our way and you can be a part of this segment. Just DM us at Coffee Sometimes Pod on Instagram or send us an email at info@valor.coffee and you can get the address and we will review your coffee. It's becoming one of my favorite parts of the show.
I love it. I love the ability to dial in someone else's coffee too.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sprout Coffee Roasters.
It is fun.
You guys want to rank this stuff?
Let's get down to it.
Let's do it. All right. Content out of 5.
All right, sorry, we have to look at this bag now.
Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 3,
2. So 2.
2.
Okay.
Oh, 2.5. Come on, bump them up.
I'll keep track.
I just said 2 because I did have a hard time getting information about the bag, because
Yeah.
I didn't have the DMs to look into, but I just had the bag in front of me. And when I was looking up Sprout Coffee, trying to find out the roaster, it was connecting me to a Sprout Coffee in the Netherlands. But we know it's like to play the small game, where your SEO is not out the wazoo amazing. So I would just try to make sure to have stuff on your own packaging that can like get people directly to you to know about the company. But love the shout out to the I guess this would be a co-op if it's a comunidad. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Anyways,
All right. Aesthetic.
Out of 10?
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 5.
3.
5.
3, 5, 7. So 5.
Yeah. Like I said, my big holdup is the Sprouts grocery store thing. But you know, I like the flowers. It's a cool touch. The subtle kind of design, drop the opacity so it's barely there. That vibe is cool.
I like the color of the type as well. It's not just white. It's this nice creamy off-white. It kind of reminds me of like OG Methodical. Something about it. But it feels comforting. Yeah, I do like the florals.
UX?
Yeah, this one's always funny, but 1, 2, 3,
5. All right, 5.
Kind of like an it is what it is moment.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. All right. Crunch. Should we save crunch for last so we don't ruin our palates?
Sure.
All right. We'll save crunch for last, but let's go flavor.
Flavor.
Okay. I'm ready.
Me too.
1, 2, 3, 5.
6.
5.
I was viewing this as similar to our workers' comp, our dark-ish roast.
Yeah.
And like in that category, like it's good.
This might even beat workers' comp.
Yeah. I mean, it's has some acidity, especially in the espresso. And if you want to just have a nice developed cup of coffee, like it's doing that for sure. So what was that?
No, wait. That was taste or flavor?
That was flavor, yeah.
And that was a 5.
Yeah. How about enjoyability?
Oh, nice. 1, 2, 3,
5.
7.
A little hezzy there, Ethan.
I know. Well, I just like that cappuccino so much.
Yeah. All right, so we're going 6 there.
What we go on flavor? 5.5?
I put 5, yeah.
5?
You can take it to a 5. All right, time to
Crunch.
get our crunch on. Ooh. I'm not mad about that. I'm not mad about that at all.
Out of 5.
1, 2, 3, 4.
2.
4. What happened? Talk to me.
It's kind of ashy.
Oh, it is on the aftertaste for sure.
Yeah, maybe we'll take it to a 3.
Okay.
3?
Nonetheless, pretty good. All right, thanks for tuning into the coffee review section. Thank you for Sprout. For Sprout, I would like to thank you. Like Ross said earlier, if you want to send us coffee, we'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take free coffee. Thank you.
So that is going to give us our whopping total of 26.5.
Hey, it's above 500 right there.
Listen, I know it might sound like, and it's not a super high score, but trust us, that's good. That's good coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Once we start working with some like 15s, we'll be talking about bad coffee.
I think I was just thinking we need to bring in some low balls to be like, hey, this is what it is like if you buy coffee from the grocery store.
That's a good point. We'll have to do that.
Because I don't want to just like have someone send in poo-poo doo-doo for us to rip it up.
Yeah.
Of course.
But we will.
Yeah.
If you want to
We
send
would.
in poo-poo doo-doo, we will rip it up.
Yes, we will.
We are going to be talking. What? You guys just let me be me. Be me talking about this book, chapter 19. I was so excited last week to talk about it. I thought we were talking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my
Chapter
gosh.
19, scaling a culture. That sounds like something we're trying to do, right, boys?
Yeah.
Scale a culture.
Allegedly.
Is this the best chapter yet? Oh, guys.
I think so.
Guys, this chapter broke my heart.
Why?
It was just all like 11 Madison Park. And then he's like, we're going to go start another one. I was like, no.
Huh.
You had, I don't know why. I was just so sentimental towards
You
like,
would.
I know. I'm touchy like that. And then I do some research and I find out that the place that they started in New York is already closed.
Oh my gosh.
Huh.
I don't know why.
I wonder if it was a COVID closure.
I was thinking due to the luxury hotel nature of it, it could have been a COVID thing.
Man.
But
I wonder if he talks about that.
maybe towards the end. Guys, what stuck out to you in chapter 19?
I thought it was really cool how when they were opening this Nomad, this other thing, they took a large portion of their team from 11 Madison Park to the new place to set the culture. And it hit home for me because I was on the opening team for Dunwoody.
Yep.
And we were in this weird place where we wanted to take enough people from our first location to our second location where we would be good, like a strong pioneer in the new place and set the culture. But I wish we would have taken more.
Sure.
And I think the reason we didn't take more was because we were trying to honor our employees' requests in terms of where they live and what their commute would be like and what they want, and that's a good thing. But in hindsight, we were just way outnumbered in terms of new people to the pioneers, let's call them. Thankfully, the new people were awesome, but even if they are awesome, there's just a certain amount of like
you can only get some stuff through experience,
Yeah. Just having those years under your belt is what gives you that confidence. So it hit home for me there.
He has this line about it. He says, "I'm always surprised when people spend a fortune on new projects, then skimp on training the people charged with bringing that project to life. A perfect example of what it means to be penny wise, pound foolish."
Yeah.
And I was proud of how much time we gave to our people to train in the cafe. But, when you're building out a budget for a new project, always trying to make that like employee payroll costs as big as possible to get people real comfy in their space beforehand goes a long way.
Absolutely. Riley?
My turn?
Your turn to talk.
Ooh, yeah. I think I resonated with so much because I just felt like this chapter was written for us over the course of the past year. But something that stuck out to me was just their ability to amplify any situation, take it to the next level. So even in terms of, their pre-meal meetings kind of turned into their core values, which turned into like printed documentation, which turned into a field manual printed in a little red book that was similar to their menus. So that inspired me, and I think this book in general has inspired me to, not only go to the next level for guest experience, but to also go to the next level for your employees' experience.
Yeah.
How can we make first days better? How can we make the boring employee handbook like that much more special? And I think that I'm going to borrow some of these concepts.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, you can think about it like the taller the order, like the higher the standard we want to make, the more tools we want to give our team to climb that mountain, if you will.
Yeah, and back to the mediums, the message,
Yeah.
like how an employee handbook is presented tells you how important that document is.
Oof.
And we're guilty of
Black and white printer.
just print that thing off. Like not even a staple.
Not even double-sided.
Not even we do double sided.
You do double-sided.
Okay, I do double sided. But that stuff's good, and it can be a hard pill to swallow, especially in the coffee industry. You don't just have unlimited budget flying around, so it's like, well, how is this directly going to make us money? Because because we're trying to spend money and make money from spending that money.
Yeah.
And the answer is like, it's not gonna make you money that day, but it is a more long-term investment in those people, and they're gonna remember those moments even more if you put in that effort. So that's a good encouragement for us. We were talking about that yesterday in our meeting.
Yes, we were.
Awesome. Maybe the last thing I'd say, he had a little part about leaders saying, "I'm sorry," and I love that. I love him talking about people on his staff willing to give him the hard truth and him acting on that. And I was empowered by that. Also, shout out for him marrying the lady from Milk Bar.
Yeah, way to go.
Shout out.
I had no idea.
She seems nice.
She seems amazing.
From she was in something on Netflix I watched one time.
Is she like a public figure?
Yeah.
of
She
some
was in
sorts?
Game of Thrones.
What?
I'm joking.
Oh, that's good.
You know, they did cameos. Ed Sheeran was in Game of Thrones.
You're kidding.
Oh, dude, it was so cringe.
Was he like a bard?
I mean, in a way, I think that he was at war, but like him and the other soldiers were sitting around the fire, and he was like playing a song
Like on his little
on something.
Martin.
And I was just like,
I think he was probably playing the lyre.
what is happening right now? But that's just me. I'm sure other people loved it.
We only got is it one more chapter?
One more chapter.
Well, we got to do an epilogue.
Well, next
review.
week we're gonna do the last chapter and the epilogue.
Yeah.
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 That sounds good.
Booyah.
It's been good to us. We thought today we would peel back the curtain a little bit on palate development.
Ooh,
Yeah. Your palate.
Check, please.
Get ready, y'all.
And I'm interested, like for you guys, what was the first moment that your palate kind of woke up to just flavors in general? Let me just clarify that a little bit, because I remember my coffee moment where I was like, whoa, specialty coffee is different and that is intriguing.
Yep.
But what about like even before that for you guys? Like, did you have a meal or a favorite childhood drink? Like for me, it was.
I loved like a good gin and tonic when I was like 13.
Yeah.
GT.
Mine was Tang. Okay. Do you guys have Tang?
What, dude?
Come on now.
Growing up,
You crazy?
that big old tin of just powder.
Yeah.
Orangutan on it.
We got to make a Tang riff for like next summer's seasonal menu.
Done.
Yeah. But I just remember having that and being like, this tastes like orange, but it tastes like kind of worse orange a little bit, but I like it.
Yeah.
And my dad told me it had electrolytes, so I was like, okay, great. I got to fuel up.
More.
Man, you already knew that as a kid.
You know, people like buy their own caffeine and other things that are in like pre-workout and just mix it with Tang.
I did not know that.
You
the
can
thing.
still buy Tang.
Yeah.
Still kicking.
Well, I think the point is that it makes
Affiliate link
it makes
below.
it way cheaper
Oh, I see.
than a PW. You know.
Okay, pre-workout.
It's like project management, but stupid story as a kid. I always want to have a culinary mind. I want to have like secret ingredients. So I'd make a PB&J, and I'd like go to the spice rack and like grab one, like a random spice and just like put a little bit on it.
Oh, that's still at play with you.
So I
That's
put like
so you.
oregano on my PB&Js. And it's like,
Oh,
these are
dude.
next level. It's because I watched Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off, the
my
Disney movie
gosh.
where he put a bunch of stuff in a blender and it turned out good. I was like, that's me.
Wow.
Fast forward to being 18, you know, Stumptown gets into ATL and trains me up in the way I should go. And that was the first time I was like, oh my gosh, coffee is pretty good.
Yeah. So you just worked at Malvi, the marshmallow place, and then they added the coffee program.
Yeah.
But it was like good coffee.
Even being at Malvi, it was owned by 2 chefs.
But even before that, you would like go to coffee shops.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not saying that it was like
I don't think
the
I-
highest quality stuff.
No, I
but-
went to the local coffee shop, and I thought what it meant to like try all the coffees was just to try all the different pumps for the flavored lattes. PB&J latte being my number one.
Understandably.
But when we're talking specifically about palate development and coffee, it was when we were going to those counterculture cuppings. Stakes were high.
Yeah.
Okay, you're in a room of people that you don't know, and they're not the nicest. Everybody's really nice, but it's a little, it's tense. It's coffee people. I don't know. The air was thick.
Sure.
And you go around, you taste all the coffees, and then the person leading is like, all right, what'd you taste with this coffee? And then you're like, I was like, chocolate. He's like, what kind of chocolate? I don't know. But it was one of those, probably like 3 or 4 in, where I was like, I think I'm actually getting like a melon sweetness. And when someone's like, oh, I got that.
Yeah.
You're like, yes, I got it.
Yep.
Confirmation.
I'm a part of the group.
I'm in.
Yep. That coffee for me, where it kind of just woke up my palate to specialty coffee, was definitely Buziragu Hindwa, natural process counterculture.
It's always a natty.
It's always a natty. And that's the power of natties.
Yeah. It was that, or man, there's such a special place in my heart for that season of our life where we're all like dating our girls but not married yet, and we would go to Atlanta like 3 times a week from Dawsonville.
Yeah.
And I can just remember a time it was like really cold, and we like went to the Brash Box.
Yep.
And we're just like, it's cold outside. There's like nowhere inside, but we got a cortado with Wilfred Lamastis, like freaking
Geisha.
Panama geisha.
Yeah.
And it was like $9.
They let you put it in a cortado?
Well, we were just like cortado, and they were like, we've got 2 espressos. Remember how they used to always do that?
Oh, yes.
I don't know if they still do, but they would always give you your espresso options because they didn't do blends. Maybe still don't. And we were like, sure, why not? Wow. Big spenders. And we got it, and it was like pretty mind blowing.
Yeah. Well,
that was post Buziragu Hindwa, but
yeah. Yeah. Was it JP was he there?
I don't think JP was there. I think that one of the previous partners of the business was behind the bar.
Matt?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he was like, it's going to be chocolatey with a lime finish. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then I drank it, and it was.
Yeah.
So maybe that was my first placebo, or maybe it actually was that.
I mean,
But,
that's not like always what I'm looking for in a milk beverage,
of course.
but like that's one of the most memorable drinks I've ever had. Which brings me to that point of like, have I had coffee like that before, and it's just all experience based? But that's a different topic for a different time.
Yeah. But so we're talking about palate. Let's just talk about why it's important to develop your palate when you're working in coffee. Because especially in our position, we're a roaster, and we have 2 cafes, and we're training people. So you can talk about it from like the boss's perspective of like making these calls on coffees, but also just as a barista, why is it important to develop your palate?
I mean, if nothing else, you want to make sure that the guest is having the best experience they can. If you're talking about a cafe environment, at least. It's one thing to have a system, and I think we've found ourselves in that whenever we haven't, people's palates aren't too, up to the standard yet. It's like you kind of just have to roll out a system of, 25 to 28 seconds kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But we always try to keep someone around to be able to taste it, because it's just going to change day to day. So the sooner you can get to that point of knowing that you're serving a great product to a guest, the better.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the cafe, you're in the extraction business.
Yep.
Pretty much every drink you're doing involves some sort of like taking flavors from one thing and imparting it into another. And the best thermometer for that, the metric for success, is how it tastes.
Yeah. And sometimes with cuppings, I think there is an overemphasis on the message of like, taste is just subjective. So like whatever you're tasting, like that's correct. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe like enjoyability is subjective for sure. You may not prefer certain flavors, but to say that taste is completely subjective is to say that palate development doesn't exist. Because like, think about like the Q grading process. Like, I mean, just take a quick pit stop on that. What was the Q grading process like, just in like 45 seconds?
One.
Yeah, I mean,
2.
stop. A lot of it was getting ready for it. So getting ready for it, it was just me cupping a ton of coffees. And then to the point where you go out there, I mean, yeah, it is a lot of cupping, and a lot of it is just honestly you getting calibrated with the other people there. So that's like the first 3 days. And then the last 2 days was like testing. So I'm there for the first 3 days, and I'm just tasting these coffees. We're still all scoring silently, but then it's like everyone reveals their scores of things, and then you see like how close or far off you were from everyone. Because the scoring on the cupping tests are based on how many points away you were from the average of all of your teammates.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
The collective.
But that's the point. It's like if you're doing that, and then the instructors are also getting like calibrated with other instructors, the entire point of cupping is like so all these people will be calibrated together on what is good quality. So I never went back for my recalibration, so I'm not Q certified anymore. But it's that, and then there's also a lot of other sensory experience stuff, like sniffing these vials of smells. I think it's called like a Lene kit. That was one. There were some other ones, like you have to be able to identify defects in a sample of green, some stuff like that.
Yeah. So if someone is trying to develop their palate, they're trying to be able to perceive the flavors that they're tasting in the coffee and link that to another flavor out there that exists. That's one part of it. Another part of it is being able to objectively grade coffees, right? Like how, some people may not know this, but a huge part of Q grading is just that, grading the coffees and scoring them out of 100, right? And so that's all part of palate development. Another part is like you said, extraction, being able to link what, the pour over I'm making right now, the espresso I am dialing in, how close is that to how this coffee comes out on the cupping table and how enjoyable is it? But a few ways to develop your palate. I mean, we were already talking about cupping. We'll start with that. Doing that often is key because it's kind of one of those, if you don't use it, you lose it things, right? Like there's times where, like I'm around coffee all the time. I'm tasting extractions all the time in the cafes, extracted coffee. But if I don't continuously work out that muscle of cupping, then not only do I just become worse at cupping, but I lose the true north of what a certain coffee is supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
So, doing these weekly cuppings here, and now we're doing them twice a week, I'm definitely going to be attending at least one of those, because if all I do is taste extractions all the time behind the bar, then I'll lose what the coffee is really supposed to taste like.
Yeah, I'm proof of concept with that. I was Q certified and whatever, and so I think my palate was pretty decent, and I just stopped cupping for a long time, especially once we had other people roasting and things like that, like in that part of the business, and my palate definitely suffered for it. And I would say that like a year ago, my palate was probably like at its worst since I'd started in coffee. And then since then, I've just been cupping every week at least, and then just like drinking more coffee and thinking about it on the day to day. Because that's one thing, and I mean, I don't think that's a tip here, but a big part of it is just like think about the coffee when you're drinking it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I just shut off my mind and I'm just like,
Just like that.
Every time.
yeah, and it just tastes like coffee when you frame it like that. But to sit here and actively think about what you're drinking, that goes a long way.
That's how I got better at latte art as well. I just wasn't thinking about, I didn't have enough intention with my pour. So when it comes to coffee too, that's such a great tip. Thanks for saying that. Thanks for your honesty too.
Dude.
And to zoom out a little bit on just what cupping is, if some people don't know and why it's important. Cupping, in case you haven't done it before, is when you put coffee grounds into a bowl and you smell the dry coffee and assess that. And after you've took notes on that, you pour water over the grounds, no filters, no espresso machines,
Raw, baby.
no
No
nothing.
filter.
You fill it all the way to the top, And as that coffee brews, it forms a crust on the top. A lot of the grinds float to the top. It forms a crust. There's a bunch of aroma packed underneath there. After we do 4 minutes brew time, after that, you take a spoon and you break the crust, otherwise known as the break.
Right, the break.
Which I always thought was the coolest part, especially going to the counterculture cuppings, is breaking it. And put your smeller down in there, see if you get any more new aromas or anything whenever you break. And then a key part that I think is incredibly simple, but maybe some people miss, is just waiting for it to cool off.
Dang, go there.
Not waiting too long, but what's our standard of how long we wait before we dive into the coffees? I know it's not like super black and white, but ballpark.
I think most people around here, that was the funny thing, is like when Sam first started leading the cuppings and like being really involved with the cuppings, he would always want to dive in and like make fun of me because I would wait until like 14 or 15 minutes. And now I think he's waiting until like 14 or 15 minutes. Because when you're just doing it so much, it's good to taste the coffee as it transforms, but like it's pretty hot until I would say at least 12:30, 13.
Yeah, one of the reasons you want to wait and really help your palate is the closer a beverage is to your body temp, the easier it's going to be to pick out the nuance, because your body's not having to go into like shock mode and adjust itself to like the new environment. So that's why we always kind of share a little riff on like, that's why Coors Light markets, drink the beer ice cold when the Rocky Mountains are blue.
Yep.
Because if you let it just get to room temp, it's not going to taste so good.
It tastes good.
It tastes, it still tastes, it's just like really good instead of amazing.
Yeah.
And one of the big points of cupping is, let me say it this way, like just pretend cupping didn't exist.
Don't do that.
Let's enter a world just for a moment that cupping didn't exist. If we are trying to as objectively as possible assess coffee here in Alpharetta, Georgia, and one of our importers in Charleston is trying to assess that same coffee, and then the farmer who grew that coffee in Guatemala, we all are sitting in front of the same coffee. Maybe it was roasted a little bit differently, but let's just say it was all the same. If cupping didn't exist, then we would all brew that coffee differently. Just because even if we all did a pour over, there's no way that we would nail it all exactly the same. Or just to put it in a finer point, like in Italy, this is more of a weaker argument, but in Italy, they're all about espresso, right?
That's
so
right,
it's
baby.
Like,
You've been,
yeah, I was 5 years old. But if we're trying to assess coffee the same way that someone in Italy would, they're brewing it on espresso because that's their preferred method. We're brewing it on whatever batch brew or whatever it is. It's just not going to be the same. And so if we're going to objectively assess coffee, we need to have a globally recognized baseline default standard of how we do this thing. And that is why organizations like SCA there's like a SCA, certified cupping process. So we can all sort of get around the same method and be as objective as possible.
We're system junkies. What can we say?
Yeah.
We love a good system.
I like that stuff. Whenever people are first starting out with cupping, like you said earlier with our experience in the counterculture cuppings, it can be intimidating when you're cupping with a bunch of people that have a lot more miles on this thing than you do. They're calling out all these crazy notes, and you might just be thinking, this tastes like coffee, or like, this tastes like nothing. I feel like I've tasted nothing a lot in the past, where it's just like, this kind of tastes like brown water. And what we tell a lot of people in that situation when we're training people, or we got wholesale customers in the roastery, is if it's your first time cupping, just start with a baby step whenever you're trying to name flavor notes. So instead of saying like, this tastes like 70% cacao African chocolate under roasted, like that, instead of putting that standard so high for yourself, why don't you just start with something incredibly simple? Think of the most simple word you could possibly say. You could say it tastes like dark.
Yeah.
Or it tastes bitter.
Sweet.
Or it tastes sweet. And it's like, okay, Then you maybe wait a minute or so, you take another slurp, and then you ask yourself, like, okay, if I said dark last time, there's a lot of different, arms off of that I could pursue. I could talk about how it's like a dark chocolatey thing, or it's like a dark, like earthy thing, or it's like a, there's so many different ways that you can start to go down and narrow the view. And then you say, okay, it's a chocolate. Is it like a milk chocolate, like Hershey's, like cheap, sweet chocolate? Or is it like one of those fancy, dark chocolate bars that's like kind of fruity?
Complex and...
Yeah. So you just start to chomp it off bit by bit and narrow in.
Think of it like a tree.
Yeah.
Wow.
Go there.
The trunk is the coffee. The branches are the general sweet, dark, fruity, floral, and they kind of branch off in all these different things. So when you're climbing a tree, you just don't jump to the leaves, do you? No, you work your way. You just got to work your way. And there's something cool about not cupping alone. I think it was really cool hearing about the Q grading process.
Yeah.
Thank you again for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for
dude.
that
Back there.
vulnerability earlier. So I think there really is something to group thought and group like calibration as well. So I love getting a lot of people around the cupping table here because it's easy to kind of get in your own head and maybe not even have someone to bounce off of when you're tasting coffee. So if you're cupping out there and you're trying to grow your palate, try to do it with a buddy.
So let's say you're cupping all the time. You're starting to grow that. And just say you're in our position where you either roast your own coffee or maybe you work at a cafe where you just use one roaster's coffee and you're just tasting their coffees all the time. Another great way to develop your palate
Let's hear it, Russ.
is to taste other people's coffee.
Yeah.
Very simple but powerful. And I think that we realized this because there was a long stretch of time where we only tasted our coffee. Maybe not only, but definitely
Predominantly.
in the roastery, it would just always be our production roasts or sample roasts on the cupping table. And then I think it was your impetus, Riley, of just bringing in
There's your impetus.
There's my impetus over there.
bringing in more roasters, and it really expanded things for us.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember some of the roasters that we brought in kind of like early on in that season?
Early on in that
Bellwood?
season. Yeah, Bellwood.
Portrait?
I think it was just a lot of Atlanta roasters. We just go pick up a bag.
Yeah.
Ishpo?
It's always, if you're listening to this and you're roasting coffee, it might be a daunting task to be like, I can't afford all this coffee. Most roasters are willing to do a swap
Yep.
of coffees. So that's what we do a lot of times. If I just actively want to go try someone's coffee, I usually am like, yo, you want to trade some coffees? And then I treat them right. I usually send them 3 bags.
Yep.
And then it's cool because they get to share that with their staff as well. And it's just really, there's not a situation you can lose that. I mean, I would say you're going to get about as much out of doing that as you would sending cold call samples to someone. So
Yeah.
it's worth it.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed bringing in other people's coffee that is like an analog to our menu slot. So, we weren't the first roaster to our flagship blend is like a mostly chocolatey kind of fruity tubing blend. Like we've totally been inspired by other roasters in developing free throw. And so bringing in other roasters' version of that archetype on a menu is awesome because you just have that sounding board, that standard that you reflect off of, and you're able to see, okay, where are we at in relation to other roasters? And it's good for business and evaluating where other people are at, but it also improves the product you already have.
Yeah, it's a win-win because you're like, I really like our coffee still. It's like, great. Or it's like, man, I really like their coffee. I need to get better.
Yeah,
Time to get
I need
better.
to buy their roaster. I'm about to drop some money.
Buy them out. Hey, something I love, last tip for palate development is a little preface. We were just talking about how there's all these tasting notes to coffee, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I heard this at a cupping, so it's truth. Coffee's the most chemically complex beverage that we can drink.
Check that out.
Check that out. Yeah, go fact check me. Let me know. Seriously, let me know. But here's a rub. When we're building our palate and we're trying to find these notes, we kind of got to know what things taste like. You know, if you're dropping words like bergamot, blackcurrant, sorghum, have you had those things before? Have you ever eaten it? You know?
I'm like, this tastes like what I think this would taste like.
I think bergamot would taste like this, these words put together, these letters. So I just think expanding your own diet and expanding your like palate as far as eating the actual things that coffee can mirror.
Yeah.
And that inspired me. I'm gonna have to bring in some freaky stuff for us to taste next week because
That'd be awesome.
I wanna do that.
Because all I'm eating is like mac and cheese and chicken fingers.
Yeah, well, it's good.
Yeah.
Those are good.
I think whenever I first started getting into booze and like especially like neat bourbon, I feel like my barrier, like the barrier to entry was lower because I had already been drinking like espresso.
Oh yeah.
And I think that can be vice versa as well. It's just like the more of like a potent drink you can taste that's like relatively complex that you can kind of take steps in understanding better, the more likely you are to understand a completely different beverage or food.
Totally.
Yeah.
I have a fourth surprise,
No.
guys.
Dang. Did
didn't
you
even
plan
know about
this and
it.
just not tell us?
I planned it whenever we started talking, and I thought
Okay.
about this one.
All right.
I think it is so important to taste poorly extracted coffee on purpose.
Go there, dude.
So the first thing I remember of this is the experiment. I don't know if Matt Perger like made this or not, but I know that he definitely wrote a lot about it. You basically you pull a shot and you like every 5 or 10 seconds, you switch out with another cup and then you taste the coffee over the course of the extraction and you can see what is happening throughout. So that first one is going to be super under extracted, salami shot.
And super strong.
Yeah. And then as you go further and further, you might get more. Great extraction is a mixture of over and under extraction. So
Which is crazy.
The properly extracted one wouldn't
It's none of
necessarily
them.
be properly extracted. None
Yeah.
of these are going to be perfect, but you'll still get something.
The middle is
relatively
the
close.
closest.
Yeah.
Ross.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ross.
no, I know too.
No, I know.
Okay.
So that test was great for me. Do that kind of stuff. Just like do freaky stuff. Like you're behind the bar with your friend / coworker, and you guys just pull a 5-second shot and like both take a sip of it. And it's gonna suck, but like I know that sounds stupid, but you'll understand. And then pull a 10-second and a 15-second, and like get an idea for all of those things. And same thing with pour overs. Just like intentionally brew a really under extracted pour over. Intentionally brew a 10-minute pour over and taste these and like see what happens. Like experimentation is going to lead you to
Revelation.
revelation. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Ross.
Booyah.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's that. It's such an important dynamic to wade between tasting for extraction and then like tasting for the flavor of the coffee. That's why it's so important to cup coffee, because you don't have to worry about that. It's just like, what does this coffee taste like? And then when you're in the shop, it's like, how can I get through the extraction wall to unlock the true flavor?
Yeah. Unlocking
Follow
true
these
flavor.
4 tips to unlock the true flavor.
The big takeaway on salami shot for me is like since perfect extraction is equal representation of under and over extracted coffee, then when you are tasting the both ends of that spectrum, you know, the first 2 cups are super potent and salty and strong, and then the last 2 cups are watery and weak and bitter. I like to think of like, okay, so I did my salami shot thing, and then I'm going to pull another actual shot of espresso. If that espresso is tasting under extracted, then I didn't give enough time for those over extracted flavors to come through and provide balance to the under extracted flavors.
Wow.
So, and then the vice versa is the same. If the shot went too long, then the over extracted flavors masked the under extracted flavors, and just dominated that. So that was a takeaway for me on salami shot. Even though like none of the cups taste good, that's not the point.
My takeaway in training when we do the salami shot is because it's so strong and thick at the beginning and ends so watery and over extracted, it just shows that it's not like when you are making espresso right when you start it, the same espresso is just coming out the whole time, so that it's like this stratified, layered piece. It's really an art piece. And you have to stir it before you drink it.
Yeah.
Because it's stratified. You're going to just be drinking like hot brown water on top, and then you're going to get some gross, thick goop on the bottom. So
Because it literally is heavier.
it's literally heavier.
So it sinks.
There's not enough force to
Yeah.
jostle. There's no jostling.
Or
There's no
agitate.
jostle. No jostle, no agitation.
I think that's my biggest cafe pet peeve when I go somewhere and I order an espresso and they don't give me a spoon.
And then you're like,
So I have to either swirl it. I have used my finger in the past.
guilty.
Oh.
And you're like,
I go try to find a wood stirrer.
You go to the bathroom.
use someone else's finger.
Yeah. Hey, can I borrow this? Yeah. That's a pet peeve.
Hey, de-stratify your drip too. It's the same thing.
Tune into our next episode of Cafe Pet Peeves.
Cafe pet peeves.
So, in conclusion, looking back on our time together here today,
I had so much fun.
Me too.
cupping is going to help you get calibrated. All right. Tasting other people's coffee is going to help you not get stale.
Come on.
Tasting other people's food is going to expand your horizons.
Wow.
And tasting poor extractions is going to give you a deeper understanding of the coffee you're drinking.
Wow. How concise.
I just come up with this stuff. I don't know. But we would love to take a moment to say thank you for listening to this episode of the Coffee Sometimes podcast. If you've enjoyed, why don't you go ahead and smash that like button, smash subscribe, give us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or like what are the other podcast platforms?
Pocket casts.
Give us a review on Pocket Casts.
Guilty, I use it.
We would really appreciate it because that helps us a lot.
Helps us get famous.
Also, go to our Instagram page, grab a reel, post it on your Instagram story.
You can do that.
You can do that.
How
You got to press a
intuitive.
few buttons.
You gotta press the send button and then add to story,
Wow.
and then it's on your story.
It's easy.
If you find anything we've ever said profound, or if you want to post it and be like, these guys are idiots, we'll take any engagement we can
Hey,
get.
Hey,
Any
any
press.
news is good news.
Any-
Hey, are we gonna shout this guy out? The guy that you showed us the video?
Oh my gosh, guys. I have let this fly for too many weeks. I'll post the video right now, but we do want to go ahead and say someone yelled out their car window
To
Yeah.
someone.
to some people on the street.
Two
and-
people.
And told them to listen to the Coffee Sometimes podcast. And you think they did?
I don't know.
Think they're listening to the program right now?
Let's go with yes.
Okay.
All right, here it goes. I'm doing it. Hey, you guys should listen to the Coffee Sometimes podcast. It's good. There it is.
Okay.
Not
How
all-
about this? If those people,
We'll give that guy.
what
a
will we
lifetime
give them?
We'll send you a merch package if you are listening. We're gonna have to do some like face verification, like
Yeah.
run it through Chat GPT.
We'll do all of that
Oh,
stuff.
we do that for everybody.
I've got a
Yeah.
guy.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Peter for really, finding some people,
Hey,
spreading the word about the program. We appreciate it.
not all heroes wear capes.
That's right.
That's all. That's how I'm going to leave that one.
So with that being said, continue to yell out your car windows and
Safely.
and share the
the
program
best
with your
form of
friends.
marketing.
We appreciate it, and we love y'all. See you next week.
Love you.